Welcome to the first episode of 13 Ways to Lead, with your host, the 13th Command Chief of the Air National Guard, Chief Master Sgt. Maurice Williams. Our featured guest today is the 18th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force and current CEO of the Air Force Aid Society, Kaleth O. Wright. I'm Master Sergeant Eric Gallion, and today's topic is all about leading by example. So let's get started with some backgrounds from you gentlemen, and then we'll cover today's topic.
Hey, just give a little background about myself. I joined the Air National Guard when I was 18 years old in the state of North Carolina. Spent 30 years of service there in the Air National Guard there. Started off in my AFSC. I was a 2T2 old port dog. Used to run the airport squadron and converted over to small air terminal now. And I had the opportunity to be a wing command chief, state command chief there in the state of North Carolina. And then a transition out to the Midwest in the state of Kansas, where I became the command senior enlisted leader out there, having the opportunity to be over 6,000 soldiers and airmen there in the state and 2 Air National Guard wings. And then, of course, from there, I had the opportunity to be selected for this position. So my career has been from the East Coast to the Midwest and back to the East Coast. So it's been a great journey thus far. So I'll turn it over to my battle buddy over here, K. Wright.
Well, that's very impressive, man. I only like long walks on the beach and horseback riding. Well, first of all, Mo, thanks for the invite. It's good to be here. I'm excited to, cover a few topics about leadership with you. So I'm Kaleth Wright. I go by Kaleth or K. Wright these days. I'm no longer a chief, so I'm getting accustomed to my first name again. But I joined the Air Force in '89. I was a dental tech, and one day I woke up and I was a Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, and now I'm here with you, Mo. So it's good to be here.
Hey, glad to have you here. Glad to have you here.
Let's go ahead and get started with leading by example. And it says here that people believe what they see, and airmen are always watching us. And as General Colin Powell had said, all work is honorable. Always do your best because someone is watching. Any examples from you gentlemen where you didn't realize somebody was watching and you left a negative impression and then, quickly made that adjustment to show, no, that's not what I meant to do. I want to lead by example for the positive.
Well, yeah, you always have. I've had those challenging times because sometimes, you're going through a process and you don't realize people that are watching you. But at the same time, hey, you want to be doing things to set an example. But sometimes the perception may look a little different. You take an opportunity. Myself, I go out to wings and visit, and had a long night. Get up that morning, but when I go in there, I got to be going at 100 miles per hour because that's those airmen's first perception of what they see of me when I go into the organization. So you got to put that effort forward. Sometimes it's a little challenging, but it's people are always watching, so you never know. You just got to push it that way.
When I was a brand new chief, I was stationed at Kadena. I was a superintendent of the dental clinic at the time, and a young lady, a tech sergeant that I had seen around the base, but she had never spoken to me. She came to my office and she said, "Hey, Chief, you got a minute?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Hey, I was in the BX yesterday with my son. He's 15, and we saw you." And my son asked, "Hey, Mom, who is that guy?" And I said, "Oh, that's Chief Wright. He's, this." And I told him who you were and all the things that you do. And she said, and he said to me, "Man, I want to be just like him when I grow up."
Oh, nice.
Right. And so I sat back in my chair. I was like, yes. And then she said, but then we walked around the BX a little bit and we ran into you again. And this time you were talking to what I believe was one of your basketball players. I used to coach the base basketball team. And you were cursing up a storm. You were every MF, every, 4-letter word in the book. I don't know what the conversation was about. And my son looked at me and said, "Mom, never mind."
Yeah, that's
a harsh reality right there.
Now I can count the number of times on my one finger that I've been speechless. And that was it, man. I didn't have anything to say. but it helped me, really, really realize something that I knew already, that
Right.
people are always watching, even when you don't think they're watching. Even I wasn't in uniform, I was in the BX, I was talking to, some young man, and as you could tell from when I first came in, it didn't last long, but I stopped cursing for 2-3 years, and I was very intentional and purposeful about, minding my language, minding, how I presented myself in public, because this young lady and her son, the negative impression that I made. So, I think leading by example, man, is a huge deal, and not just outwardly and things of that nature, but modeling the behavior you expect of the people that you lead is probably one of the more important. And I'm glad you have that, Mo, as really your first. I don't know if they're in order of importance, but as your first, principle of leadership.
Right. Yeah. Well, not in order of any purposeful order, but that's one of the things they see. Always when I'm out there talking to airmen, I talk about I have this thing I talk about 4 M's: model, mentor, multiply, and so one of the things I talk about when I talk about modeling, I always say, hey, scientific studies show that 89% of what is learned is through visual stimulation. 10% is audible, and the other 1% is through the other senses. I say, so what does that mean? People believe what they see, so you got to set the example. So I push that all the time because, hey, like I say, those situations everybody's watching. Hey, and I'm kind of like you. I try to watch the cursing when I'm up there. It slips through every now and then, but it's the matter of controlling where you are and things.
I didn't do a good job, man. These jobs will make you curse.
Yeah, they'll make you scream and holler.
Yeah, Tess. It sounds similar to parenthood. I've noticed. I don't have kids myself, but I know multiple parents who do something and then they see their kids model that behavior, and they see the good side of it and they see the bad side of it at the same time, and they think, kind of makes them self-reflect. I don't want to push that message. I want to push the good stuff, the right stuff, the stuff that benefits other people. And bring that to the world.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of parenting, studies are, Mo mentioned some studies. I do a little bit of coaching now, and as part of that, I do this personality assessment, and one of the things that I talk to my clients about is that 60% of your personality, you get it honest, right? It comes from, you're born with it,
right? You
get it from mom and dad, and so many times we as parents, we get upset about things that our kids do, but I mean they kind of get it from us in most instances. But
that's right, yeah. I mean, one thing, you mentioned parenting too. One thing I will ask you is, has there ever been one person or multiple individuals that you think has had an influence on yourself and set an example for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, the story is, I actually get, and Joe Wimbush certainly deserves his just due, but people probably get tired of hearing me talk about, my mentor, Joe Wimbush, when I first came in the Air Force. He was a person that took me under his wing, that taught me how to be a man, taught me how to be a professional, gave me a lot of tough love. He's from Pittsburgh, the inner city. And so all of my little slick tricks and stuff he already knew and called me on it. But he was and still to this day continues to be like an amazing role model, man. He's just he retired as a first sergeant out of Andrews. He still lives in the area, so I get to see him quite often. He and his wife, Diane, they basically adopted me into their family when I was a young airman, and he's just been a great role model, man, for lots of years. So that's been really important to me.
Right. Yeah, like for myself, I've never had one direct role model, one mentor. I just kind of pull bits and pieces from different individuals because I grew up in a single family home, so I didn't have that male figure there. And even outside of that, I just kind of just pull bits and people I had relationships with, not, I would say, close relationships. So after that, it just kind of.
Yeah, but you turned out all right, though, man. You're doing good, man.
Some say good, some say bad.
I'm proud
of you, man. But yeah, that's some of the things. Back when you was in the seat, you used to talk about, you used to use this phrase, so put your mask on first before helping others. What did you really mean by that when you used to say that? I mean, because I look at that, I think about it as being an example, taking care of yourself first and getting that representation. Can you open that for you?
Well, it was a very literal, translation. I've flown so much in my life, and it first came to me, I think I was sitting on an airplane and I heard the flight attendant say, hey, if this cabin loses pressure, you should put your mask on first. Now, she or he never goes on to say, or the little funny videos they have now on
right.
Delta or whatever. They never go on to say, because if you can't breathe, then you can't help anybody
right.
else. But I think that's implied, right?
Right.
And I spent my entire career, man, taking care of other people, thinking about other people, thinking about the best way to take care of the airmen, the troops. And I never really focused from a and I don't mean from a selfish standpoint. From a health standpoint, I never
right.
really said, okay, if you're going to be traveling 290 days a year, if you're going to be going to meetings back to back, if you're going to be out jumping out of airplanes and doing all kinds of getting shocked and all this other stuff, you probably need to get the right amount of sleep. You probably should put better things in your body. You probably should work out, more regularly. And it wasn't until I got sick after
right.
my first year that I realized, okay, if I'm in order for me to take care of everybody else, I got to take care of myself. And so that means, putting your mask on first. And so I just think it's important, man, for all of us, whether you're a senior leader, a parent, an airman, to be able to take care of, your colleagues or your peers or your fellow airmen. Like, you gotta, have some level of inward focus in taking care of the things that allow you to be the best version of yourself every day, right? You can't show up here in the studio and produce shows if you're always tired, if you're not eating right, if things of that nature.
Yeah, that's one thing, especially in these jobs. It's a little challenging, and then by doing that, just like my team, my staff, I call it Team 13. That sets the example. I'm the same way. I watch what I eat on the road, because everywhere I go, there's a social event. Hey, I get up in the morning, usually around 3:30, 4 o'clock, go out there and run, and so my team, they get out there.
You get up at 3:30?
Get up at 3:30 because I have to go out there and run. I come back, I take a shower. I like that time to relax, get my mind right, look at the schedule,
what time
really
you go
get
to bed?
prepared. Hey, sometimes it's 10 o'clock.
Oh, you're a beast.
Right. So I just got to stay with it, because the only thing I'm thinking about, hey, that next day I got to go in there, the man going to be looking at me.
Yeah.
So just staying on it. But that, that has created that culture within my team too that do that. But like I said, hey, in order you to be the best version you can be, you got to keep yourself healthy. You got to invest in yourself. It kind of relates to looking up. I always think about this. I'm explaining now. They changed the institution of companies in the Air Force Foundation of companies, and got them broke up in sections: develop self, others, ideas, organization. But it's that self thing that we got to look at. Like you say, because these jobs here can be very stressful, and with the travel, getting in late, getting up early, kind of we was talking earlier when we was up in the office, hey, being deliberate in managing yourself, so you have that energy.
But part of the challenge, I think, is these jobs, when you put it in perspective,
Mm-hmm.
these jobs really aren't that challenging and stressful compared to airmen that are out on the flight line, or that are, guarding our bases for 12 and 14 hours and trying to balance, the little bit of money they make with
Right.
having a family and dealing with, all the things that life brings. And so what I think is important for, you and I, certainly you now, because you're still in the military, is making sure airmen get that message early.
Right.
You don't have to wait till you become a chief or a colonel to start thinking about taking better care of yourself, right? You really should do it now, because then you build those habits over the years.
Right.
And then when you do become a chief or a colonel or whatever it is that you decide to become in life, it's something that's more natural to you.
Right.
And you kind of understand how to balance your time, how to manage your energy, and so again, I think the whole goal is that you show up as the best version of yourself every day, not only for you but for your teammates and the people that depend on you.
Right. That leads me to kind of another point, discussion. I know one of the things you used to say, I was somewhere and someone asked the question, hey, and you used to say, be authentic, be yourself, and a lot of people, sometimes they feel like as you get up in rank or get up in positions, they can't be that. They got to be something different, but you got to be your natural self. And that's, to me, that's going back to setting that example of being, personable. Mm-hmm. If that's the kind of person that you are, not trying to force anything. I just think that carries a whole lot. A lot of people ask you, when you go somewhere, oh man, you're so down to earth. Well, I've been like that out the entire time. Mm-hmm. The position didn't change me from being who I am, being authentic. So. Yeah,
it's easier, than it sounds, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I wholeheartely believe it, and I think I've had there's been times when it's been helpful for me to be,
right.
The Kaleth that I've always,
right.
Thought myself as. And there's other times when it probably wasn't helpful, right? People
right.
wanted me to be more of this or more of that. But it sounds easier than it actually is,
right.
Sometimes.
Right.
Because I think, and again, I'll point to our young service members, our young mm-hmm. airmen and guardians, man. There's always this pressure to be more professional, to be sharper, to be smarter, to, do more, to achieve more. And sometimes that creates a lot of stress, and it creates these facades, and it creates these masks that people wear, every day because they think, in order to please the supervisor or to get BTZ or to get promoted, I have to be this person. And so
right.
we as leaders don't always do a good job of creating an environment that allows people like, hey man, just be you, just
right.
If you're going to get promoted, I'm going to help you. If you're a little bit rough around the edges, that's okay.
Right, because we all started that way.
Yeah.
Well, I can say I did.
Well, I did. But so I would say to your audience and the folks that are listening, don't just tell people to be authentic and be yourself. You got to create the environment that allows them to be themselves, to ask questions, to challenge you, to challenge the system, to use the dialect that they're most comfortable with.
Right.
And, all kinds of different other things. And, frankly, here's another thing that causes people to not be themselves is there's this assumption that everybody wants to be the Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force or, the SEL for the Air National Guard Bureau, right? Some people just want to do their time and get out. Some people just want to be the best technician, and we shouldn't judge them one way or the other. We should allow people, again, to become the best version of themselves. But there's so much pressure, man, to get promoted, to win awards, to do all this stuff. So how can you on the one hand say be authentic, but also I need you to be like the number one and best airman in the world. Right. Whether that's what you want to be or not, right? And if you don't, then I'm gonna look down on you, and I'm not gonna give you opportunities, and you won't get to go TDY. And sorry, man, I'm just rambling. I'm just ranting.
Hey, that's what we're here for. It kind of hits on something I was gonna talk about. Because in that in that paragraph where I talk about leading by example, I say, and I was cautioning putting that words in there. Benchmark excellence, because people always think I judge excellence by you doing the best you can do, not based on someone else, and that got to push that pressure. I think that in an environment, and that's where you talked about the environment, people being authentic, and it goes to one of my other categories. I'll jump into that, but that's empowering. That's empowerment with those individuals. That way they can feel that they can express themselves.
Yeah, I think, I don't know that you should be hesitant about putting it in or leaving it in, the idea that you should, as human beings, we should benchmark excellence.
Right.
It just needs to come with a qualifier.
Right.
By that, I mean you become what is your definition of excellence, and then becoming the best and then reaching for that goal, not what I consider excellence, or, in some cases, I guess you have to consider what the Air Force considers excellence and whatnot. But I think it's okay to have that in as a part of your concept. It just, has to come with the qualifier of, asking the question, hey, let's talk about your definition of excellence so that I can help you reach whatever that is. Because mine is going to be different.
Right.
I want to be the president, or I want to be an astronaut, or I want to, kick everybody's butt in everything and make stripes on the first try and all this other stuff. Yours might be, something different. So.
Right. Yeah. And that goes back to that point where you was talking about, hey, somebody just want to be that technician that does not want to be the Chief Master of the Air Force, but hey, that's their goal. That's what it'll be. And they maximize that opportunity where they are. And I just think that's great, And
I think the last part of it is that's as noble as the person who wants to be the Chief Master of the Air Force, right? It shouldn't be, hey, you want to be the Chief Master of the Air Force, therefore you have high aspirations and you're in this category. Oh, you just want to come to work and do your job well every day. Okay, that's fine. And you just right. This is just as noble as
and so I'm going to invest more in this person over here that wants to be something, quote, that wants to be something to high aspirations, but their aspiration is still the other person over there want to be, the best technician now. So we should, look at them as equal and provide still same opportunities and let that person decide if they want to pursue other things or not when it comes to development and doing any other things. And that's why I think that changed that culture of, within that organization. Yeah, some great points on that. So
I definitely like that attitude. I feel like we're going to have a little bit of kickback from some of the older service members that are still in, who still feel that ambitious drives are what accelerates airmen, as opposed to the ones who, no, I'm here to do my job and then go home to my family. Because I still see that to this day, and there are people who are passionate about other projects. There are people who are passionate about, once I retire, I've already got my plan laid out and I'm excited to get to that. And they just want to come in, do the job, and then go home. And then they have a supervisor that says, well, could you do a little bit more volunteering? It'll make your record look really good. And you think, well, I could, but that takes away time from things that I find more important. And it's not offensive by any means. They just have a different mindset.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have kickback from old heads, but that's just part of working in an organization like the Air Force, like the military, where you have at least 4 generations, in some cases maybe 5, right, from baby boomers all the way to Gen Zers, I think is the current youngest generation. So you're going to always have that conflict of what we believe, and back in my day, we walked to school barefoot, blah, we never talked to a chief.
The cliches.
Like, got it. And the young people who are saying, hey, there's better ways to do this. That's like, why are you still using floppy disk? I can, I had an example of that in Air Force Aid Society when I first got there a year ago. We still write checks. We still, if you come to Air Force Aid Society a year ago, all you could get was a check, like a check.
Paper check. She'll cash it. Yeah.
And, our team was a little bit hesitant to move to Zelle and PayPal and some of these other, things. But again, that's the kind of natural friction you get when you have multiple generations in a work environment. And I think, both or all generations have to, one, understand each other, right? Understand how old people think and see the world, and us Gen Xers like me and Mo have to understand how Gen Zers and whatnot see the world, and try to meet. You don't have to meet in the middle, but we have to give some and allow them and help them understand how to give some. But this idea that the older airmen, senior NCOs are going to disagree with the fact that some people just want to come to work and do their job. Yeah, got it. But, get over it.
Yeah.
Right? This is not 1975. It's like life has changed. Not everybody joined the military to become a freedom fighter and all this other stuff. Some people are just trying to get by and take care of their families and do their time and then move on in life, or do their time 20 years, get to a retirement. It doesn't mean that they're not contributing any less because they don't aspire to be, in some
I think that's the
position.
key message right there is they're still contributing. Are they still effective? Are they still getting the mission done?
Yeah.
I
Right.
think that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it takes everyone together to get it done, and it takes all hands on decks and to get those things. One of the things sometime I'm out there and I hear some of those comments like that, and I tell those individuals, hey, give the airman what you needed when you was airman. That you need someone to talk to you about guidance in your career, that you need someone to redirect your path. Hey, that you need someone to ask about your family, that you need someone to give you some financial guidance.
But what happens more often than not is what we as senior folks give is not what we needed, but what we got.
Right.
We needed someone to talk to us
Right.
about finance, about our family, about how to balance. But what we got was, hey man, you got to suck it up. Life's
That's right.
hard.
That's right.
You're in the military, you get paid, right? And so our natural instinct is to give what we got, not what we needed.
Right.
Which is just makes that whole situation.
That's right. That's right.
A little bit worse.
Yeah, because it's that's why I use that term. Hey, give them what they need, because if you reflect back, hey, you needed a lot more than what you got back then. Especially during the times of my supervisor. I can say I don't remember a great supervisor.
Mm-hmm. I probably had a lot of great supervisors. I wasn't a good airman, so I wouldn't have known.
Well, you had a balance, that is. Maybe that was my case too.
That was
but
probably
I
your
tell
case.
you, yeah, I did, because they was that could have been it, because they was hard on me.
Yeah.
Where was you at? You checked in the drill. I ain't seen you anymore. So, but yeah, that's a good direction to go in, though.
Let's move on to the next point really quick. As leaders, we shouldn't ask our airmen to do anything that we are not willing to do ourselves. It says here that leadership is hard and it takes courage. I think one of the examples that comes to mind is knowing when to admit you're wrong. For one, it looks embarrassing, but at the same time, it leaves a sense of vulnerability. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed that seeing leaders that own up to being wrong shows a sense of courage and wisdom.
Yeah.
Can you guys expand a little bit upon that?
Yeah. I grew into this, right? Before, both personally and professionally, it was hard for me to say I'm sorry. It was hard for me to say I made a mistake. But in my last years, maybe 4 to 5 years, I got very comfortable with saying, I thought this was a good idea, but it really is not. And so let's not do it. I was getting ready to change something with PME, some PDUs, or I was doing something with, and I had all cooked up and it was going to be all fancy. And then like right in the middle of it, I thought to myself, this won't make sense and we can't track it. And chiefs are going to like hold people accountable and all this other stuff. I was like, this was dumb. And so I just came out and said, I thought this was a good idea, but it's not. I'm sorry that people had to do all this work, but I'm scrapping it. Mm-hmm. And I got pretty comfortable with, publicly and with my team, what we call Team 18, of saying, hey, I messed up. I made a mistake. I should have done better. I had this is probably a good example. I had an exec that I hired. I hired him. I sought him out. I picked him. And he ultimately didn't do well as my senior exec. What I later realized, it was because I didn't set him up for success. I didn't spend enough time. I didn't provide clear expectation. I didn't provide the backing that he needed. And then I found myself in the position of having to ask him to move on, right? And I felt really bad, and I had to apologize to him and say, hey, man, I messed up. I wish I was there for you. I wish I would have been more available to you as a supervisor, as a mentor. I wish that, I had set you up better for success. And so I don't think that's something that I would have done, 5 years ago. I would have made all kinds of excuses. I would have pushed it all on him and the system and the Air Force and everything. But, I learned over the years to, for my own good and for my own kind of cleansing of my own soul, to be able to admit when I make a mistake and move forward.
Man, I tell you, that sounds just like me. Very challenging, type A personality. Hey, pushing forward all the time. I just learned really probably about 6 years ago. Since I've become a command chief, unfortunately, that's when I start to sit back and say, hey, it's time to, if you're wrong, hey, apologize, and hey, make a correction. It's okay to make a correction, but pushing so hard all the time, and that's it. And that's kind of, I built that since I become a command chief, because I've had close execs around me, and those have been, individuals I bounce information off of and gathered that information because, hey, they're sounding boards for me. And, as I talk to my team now, hey, I pull them in the room and ask the questions.
Mo, let me tell you the problem with both you and I in this situation is it took for us becoming command chiefs to learn this lesson, right? Which is, right. It's never too late, right? But, how do we allow, and I'll go back to create a culture that allows people to freely admit mistakes and fess up to things when they have more to lose, right? Because by the time you become a command chief, right, you got nothing to lose. You're in charge. You can't call the shots. You you already have at least some level of credibility based on your rank and position, if nothing else. But how do you learn to do that when you're a staff sergeant or a tech sergeant? And that's as I look back, hindsight is always 20/20. I wish I would have been better at it as a younger person, and I wish I would have started creating the environment for younger people much earlier in my career, and not just when you're all old and all you do is make mistakes anyway. Right.
Old, well,
forgetful,
and that comes with growing and maturing. When you know better, you should act better.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Do better. I just saw that on something. Somebody had something.
Yeah. So, well, hey, it's been great conversation. Thanks for coming out for the first my first podcast. The conversation has been well. I think we've really touched on some points about lead by example and just talking about life, in general. There's a lot of things that contribute to that good example or example, whether it be good or bad. We can all learn something from it. But I just want to thank you for the time coming out and just get here on the mic from me. And so the next time we see each other, we'll be on the golf course.
That's right. Yeah.
So before we wrap up today's episode, Chief Wright, can you share...
K-Wright.
Can you share a little bit about what you and the Air Force Aid Society has been doing to continue the support for airmen?
Yeah, so, Air Force Aid Society is, we've been busy in the last year. Probably one of the biggest things that's applicable to at least a portion of the folks here in the room is we opened up all of our eligibility programs to all guardsmen and reservists, regardless of status. So before, in order to get the emergency assistance from Air Force Aid Society, you had to be on orders, you had to be an AGR or on orders for at least 15 days. And I just didn't think that was fair. When I was in, and even now we talk about one Air Force. And so I think if you wear the uniform, whether you active, or guard or reserve, then you should be eligible if something happens to come and get money. So that's been going really well. We took on, when I was in the Air Force, myself and my peers from the other services, we tried to get the Department of Defense to pay for pet transportation back and forth overseas. And,
that's cool.
And obviously it didn't work. And so when I got to Air Force Aid Society, I saw an opportunity for us to provide grants. And so now we provide a $1,000 grant for folks who need to fly their pets from the Pacific or from Europe. I didn't realize that, it costs anywhere from $500 to $6,000, depending on what size pet you have to get back.
I didn't know that.
There's limited spots on the rotator for pets, and most of those probably go to chiefs like Mo and his boss.
That's why I'm glad I don't have pets.
So that's been a very popular program. We've generally began to provide more grants than loans. We provide a mix of either a no interest loan or a flat out grant, right, where you don't have to pay it back. And we were a little heavy on the loan side, probably too heavy for my liking. A no interest loan is good, but it's still debt, right? It's still money that if you don't have money, you got to worry about paying back. And so we've kind of shifted the percentages on how much money we actually give away, which just means we have to do a better job of raising more money, which we've been doing in the last year. We've taken on stuff like special needs. All of that stuff is automatic grants, cranial helmets, and we got a lot of great programs. Airmen who are moving out of the dorm and need money to pay. When you move into an apartment, you got to pay the first month's rent and the deposit for lights and all that other stuff. So we have quite a few programs, directly centered around helping airmen, guardians, and their families. And then we're going through a huge technology upgrade. I listened to the Air Force talk about one day we're going to get this new IT system for about 7 years, and we're about to have ours in it'll be about a year. And so I'm excited about that. That again allows us. We already have Zelle payments. But we'll be able to integrate all the rest of that stuff, PayPal and Cash App and Venmo and stuff, really just to help, airmen, guardians, and their families get their money quicker.
It's good to hear.
So, yeah. I've been shaking the place up, how I do, man.
All right. Thank you, Chief Master Sergeant Williams and K. Wright, for the outstanding insights and airmen. Remember to set the standard for excellence, be the person that people strive to emulate, lead by example, and be the change that you want to see in your organization. Be sure to follow the Air National Guard on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And for more of Team 13, follow the Director of the Air National Guard on Facebook. Join us again next month on 13 Ways to Lead, where we will be talking to Staff Sergeant Angelica Smith of the 118th Wing on leading by empowering people. From all of us here at the ANG Podcast Network, have a great Air National Guard Day. Team 13 out. 13 Ways to Lead is produced by Major Amber Schatz. Our editor is Master Sergeant Brandy Fowler. This episode was recorded at the Secretary of the Air Force Public Affairs Studio in the Pentagon and was mixed by Master Sergeant Brandy Fowler.